Hello, everybody. I'm Zenith Rule, and welcome back to In Retrospect, where I take a look at one of the video games or shows from my childhood and see how well they've held up after all these years. But before we begin, how's it going, Kat?
Don't address me, you clod. I'm doing good. I am so happy that we finished this season and I get to tell you all about Peridot and I get to show you her arc and God, this is my favorite season. I'm so happy to be talking about it.
Today we're going to be talking about the second season of Steven Universe. And to be honest, I was pretty excited when we started the season simply because when I first started watching the show, I wasn't expecting to like it as much as I did. I think the first half of season 1 still had a lot of points where it was world building, but it meandered a lot. And the second half was where I really started getting intrigued with the show. But this season is what I wanted from the first season, and honestly, it improves so much about the show. Like, there's a lot of things that from the very beginning of the season, it just pretty much does away with all the world building. It continues with it, but it's like focusing the show into noticeable arcs for each of these characters. And while there are some filler episodes here and there, like, this season does a great job of focusing and driving the plot in a way that the previous season did not.
Yeah, definitely. Like, it, as you said, the first season is like, you basically get like 25 episodes of filler the first half, and then to the other 25 focused on plot. In this, it is like, it's kind of the same, but you don't really notice as much because they incorporate the plot a lot more, like, subtly in the earlier episodes. Like, some people say that the first couple episodes can be considered season 1, since it kind of has the same feel. But for the most part, once we get to the episode Sworn to the Sword, like, things get serious pretty much from then on out. And it is like, you know, we get a few filler-esque episodes, I want to say, but for the most part, everything has something to do with something. Like, sorry, I can't come up with a proper analogy, but yeah, basically each episode is important and will become important later on.
So let's discuss a little bit about the structure of this season, because you mentioned briefly that the first few episodes could technically be considered season 1, just the way they do things, since it starts off pretty much where we left off in season 1, where we have the fallout, the fallout of what happened with the alien spaceship, everything in the episode Full Disclosure is pretty much in response to Jailbreak. And from there, we have 2 episodes dealing with the aftermath. Then we have the April Fool's episode, and then it kind of changes over in a little bit. Like, it's kind of weird because I've heard people, when we put out season 1, ask me when we had the cutoff for season 1, because some people consider season 1 everything up to Jailbreak. Some people say there's season 1A and 1B, and some people put Full Disclosure and Joyride firmly into season 1 category. The way I see it, since I'm going by the semi-official canon, which basically splits it into certain things, I think Jailbreak is a perfect end to season 1. Because if you're going to end on a climactic, ending, like right there, it's just a perfect way to end, to make people wait for the rest of the season. Full Disclosure deals with it, but it's very much falling action, and I think that's a good way to start the season, to really showcase what's going on. And I mean, like, obviously with the April Fool's episode, Say Uncle, like, they even say it's pretty much non-canon, so we don't really need to talk about that too much. I mean, like, that the season 2 opening technically doesn't start till Sworn to the Sword, but even then, that's not a case of them splitting it up into seasons, because you explained this to me earlier, Kat, where the show only has technically one opening, and they weren't even going to change it. This was actually like a special opening that they just put into a short, and people loved it so much that they just made it the new opening.
Pretty much. I know they aired it at a con like some years back, and it was like a huge hit. And I guess they were waiting until Amethyst had her until Amethyst reformed into her new outfit before they could officially use it. That it would make sense and not technically, I guess, spoil anything. But yeah, pretty much, I think that was the intention. Because if it was, otherwise they probably would have started the new season right away with it. But the thing is, this is the only opening they use from now on. Like, it's been about 5 seasons now, and we've yet to have an updated opening. And granted, they kind of need it. I mean, they kind of do, they kind of don't, just because there's a lot of new characters, and I know it's hard, like, fitting everyone into that scene, especially, certain characters where it wouldn't make sense for them to be there. But I mean, for the most part, I do like the opening. I think it's very serviceable, and it's the same song. We just get a few more character cameos. So I mean, it's perfectly serviceable. Nothing wrong with it.
So with that being said, everything from Full Disclosure up until log date 7152 is what we're talking about when we say season 2. That's our cutoff. That's what we're using. I mean, some people may argue episodes 1 through 5 of this season could be put into another season, but this is the layout that we're using just to make things easier on us.
Yeah, we're making it wiki official. So if it's listed as such on Wikipedia, then that's what we're going by. Because I mean, there hasn't been any season releases on DVD or Blu-ray for Steven Universe, and even so, most of us know how a lot of DVDs are when it comes to TV shows. They'll either release like a bunch of episodes from various seasons that have nothing to do with each other, or they'll show some things completely out of order. So for now, we're just going to go by the Wikipedia version. So sorry for anyone who wished that we do otherwise.
Now, with that said, we should probably discuss the, I guess you would say, the new theme song. I really like it. I think the added animation helps. It's showing all these characters that we know about. But I really like the new... I'm not sure if they have a new singer or if it was just re-recorded. I just think it sounds better now. Like, I think this, as a whole, just sounds like a better song. It showcases the world and characters better. I've heard the full version of the song, and I think it's really, really good. Like, honestly, that's one of my favorite songs now, because that full version just has each character's motivation and showcases what the show is all about. Like, for example, Garnet's whole thing is about, wanting to be accepted because she's a fusion, and that's not really accepted in Gem Society. Then you have all the other characters stating their business, and I think this new opening song really gets it. I love the full version. I love the regular version. Honestly, I like this from the get-go. So, yeah, I fully approve of this new song.
Yeah, same here. I do like the full version, and you see like their clear motivations and everything. I believe it's the same people that sang the first one. I mean, they are sung by the voice actors themselves. So there's nothing different about it. It's just, by this point they've been voicing the characters for a while, and their singing voices have become more attuned. So, you just get a clearer version of the song with better animation. That's pretty much all it is.
And for the ending theme, we have a different verse of the ending theme song from Season 1. Now, granted, the ending song from Season 1 basically did not have any lyrics in the first season. Now it has the first verse, and I still really love it. I love the idea of them moving through the song as it goes. It's unique because I haven't seen many shows do it. There's some anime that change the opening around a little bit depending on how things go for the anime, but not a lot of shows really change the song verse aside from maybe like Gurren Lagann.
Well, they don't really change the song. There is a full
Yeah,
full
that's what I'm
version of the
saying.
ending. It's just, as each season or each episode goes on, they add on a lyric. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what I'm saying. It changes
You
the
made it
verse.
sound like they changed the lyrics.
No. It's like a different verse of the song. It like progresses through the song slowly.
Okay.
I think that's different. I like it. I like how they're doing that. So, I mean, granted, from what I have gathered, they just finished season 5, and there's no determination of when season 6 is going to happen. I'm trying to avoid spoilers as much as I can, but that's what I've been gathering.
Yeah. I should give an update to everyone listening. So yes, I have seen the latest Stephen Bomb. I've seen up to the episode Reunited. It is not the ending to the season. I believe there's one more episode, but I don't think we're getting that till September. So, and from what I've seen in the past, they tend to have a habit of releasing the next season like as soon as the old one is done. So there's a chance we might get that. I just know for now, because usually starting with season 2, there's usually 25 episodes per season, and so far they've released 24. And I've seen the promo for the next episode, so I know for a fact that is probably going to be the ending to season 5. So
Okay.
yeah, but yes, I have seen up to Reunited. It was awesome. It brought a good conclusion to a lot of things. And again, I ask you all, please do not spoil this for Zen. I will catch her up to that point eventually. We have 2 months now, so.
Yeah, it has seriously been hard avoiding spoilers, especially with like the big episode that just came out, and like a lot of my people who I follow on Twitter don't talk about Steven Universe very often, but all of a sudden like everyone was talking about Steven Universe, and I'm just like, I'm scrolling through Twitter, just like catching a small glimpse, and I immediately close my web browser because I'm just like, I'm trying so damn hard to go into this without any knowledge. Kind of like I'm doing with my Doki Doki Literature Club stream, but it's very, very hard.
Tell me about it. I had to do that during Avengers. I wasn't able to see it till like a week later, and trying to get through Facebook was like stepping around a landmine. It was impossible.
Oh yeah. So yeah, like we are slowly working our way through. We have finished season 2. But before we begin, my cell phone appears to be going off. That ringtone sounds a little bit like a song. Everybody told me jump stuff's dangerous. Guess I didn't believe it until now. Dad always seemed apprehensive. Now he's really freaking out. What do? I don't want that for you. Everybody tells me life is precious on the planet Earth, and that means you, and I have to protect you. What if somehow you get hurt? What do? I don't want that for you. Ooh, 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 ooh. What am I going to tell you? You're better off not knowing the trouble I'm in. I don't want you to worry about what I've just seen, about where I just been. You don't have to be a part of this. I don't think I want you to be. You don't need this. You don't need me. Ooh, 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 ooh. that felt nice. That felt nice. That was a good song. Um, so yeah, let us start off with the story. This season has a much more straightforward story than the last one, simply because it has kind of three different parts. It's pretty much the first part is dealing with the aftermath of Jailbreak. The second part is the falling out of Garnet and Pearl. And the third and final part is the introduction, capture, and incorporation of Peridot into the show. And so, like, those three arcs are very much well defined, even though there's little bits here and there that are filler, like, say, Sadie's song or, stuff like that. For the most part, it is very much story focused, and I really gotta applaud it because, again, one of my biggest problems of the previous season was that they didn't really seem like there was a point to a lot of the first half. But yeah, like right from the get-go, it's right after the spaceship lands, after Jasper and Lapis are into the ocean, pretty much that's where it starts. And full disclosure is Steven trying to explain to his father and to Connie what had been going on, and realizing that, things are pretty cray. Like, things are a little bit hard to explain to normal humans, and he's starting to realize that now that they're being attacked and people want to kidnap him, things are far more dangerous than he initially ever thought.
Oh yeah, like I'm actually really glad that he finally realized that in this episode, because lately they've been showing, along with this new Steven Bomb, at old episodes from season 1 that we watched a while ago, and seeing how Steven acted when he was in like these like deadly situations where he could have died and just like laughs it off, like, was really frustrating, especially now when you realize like how deep this shit goes. So yeah, when he finally realizes in this episode, I'm like, oh, thank God. Now he's gonna take things seriously. Now he's gonna treat this, how a normal human being would treat a situation like this. So I was really happy with this episode.
Yeah, and that really sets the tone for everything that's going to come, because things are still a little bit lighthearted, but they're less so. They're very much focused on dealing with certain situations, because the episode after that is where they find Peridot's escape pod. And while Peridot's not in there, there's a lot of things that happen because of that. And it's very much also dealing with the stress that Steven is under from that as well, where he talks about how, like, he, all the space stuff, everything going on, he may be his own mother, and all this really heavy stuff.
Just let him be a DJ.
Yeah, like he goes on a joyride with the cool kids, and they all vent about their problems, and he starts to vent about his problems. And I think it's a good episode as well for the Gems, because while they've been dealing with this forever, they don't realize that how much stress this is putting on Steven. And I really like how they show both the good side and the bad side of dealing with this stress, and how Steven initially was happy-go-lucky, and now he's a little bit more serious, and that's a good thing. But at the same time, that can really eat away at you, and everyone needs a break every once in a while. So these two episodes back to back really brought home what this show was going for now. I was fully on board. I loved these two episodes.
Oh yeah, like I like you said, they'd handled it very well, and I do like that they gave the cool kids a nice little spotlight. Just them and Steven, without the addition of any of the other teenagers. Like, again, like this illustrates how much I love the cool kids, because they are not your typical cool kids. Like, under any normal circumstances, they would appear cool, but they'd actually be jerks. But in this case, they hang out with Steven because they think he's cool, and they actually care about his well-being. Heck, they even, like, stand up to the Crystal Gems when they're about to destroy him accidentally.
Yeah, the Cool Kids are just great. I especially love Sour Cream, but like they're all awesome.
Yeah, and just seeing like the gems realize that, while on the one hand they're glad that Steven's starting to take this serious, at the same time they can't pile too much on him because this is all still a lot for him to absorb. Because he just like realized now that there are other gems out there, and they're, bad gems who don't like them, who want to destroy them, who would probably destroy him just for being what he is. So, that's a lot to lay on a kid. So, yeah.
It's not easy. It's not easy, like, especially when he doesn't even know why everybody wants him. Because at this point, we don't know the significance of Rose Quartz's gem in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, like, I mean, we know that she was a rebel and everything, but yeah, I don't want to go too far down that because that would reveal some spoilers. So
Yeah. So we have this two-parter that really gives a good show of what's been happening. Now we should talk about the April Fool's episode, and this is one that a lot of people told me to skip. But I don't skip episodes, regardless of how bad they are or how good they are or whatever. I review things based on what I see, so I will watch all of them. So let's talk about Say Uncle.
oh God, oh say Uncle.
This is a crossover between Steven Universe and Uncle Grandpa, and I've never seen Uncle Grandpa. It doesn't really feel like my kind of show, but for the weird world of Steven Universe, I think it fit pretty well. Like, there are some parts that I'm just like, no, but like, I think some things do work. It's pretty much supposed to be an entire joke episode. They say from the get-go that nothing is canon, except there is one thing that is canon, and that's the whole purpose of this episode is that he's trying to learn how to summon his shield. And he can't until the end of this episode.
Yeah, just for clarification, for those who've never seen Uncle Grandpa, he's basically a mystical being, like an all-powerful being whose pretty much whole existence is to help kids either with something that's troubling them or to achieve a certain goal. Hence why he shows up in Steven Universe, because Steven's having trouble summoning his shield at will, that Uncle Grandpa's there to find ways to help him bring it out. And pretty much all hell and insanity goes loose from there. I actually, believe it or not, I actually did see Uncle Grandpa one or two times, and I even saw like the original pilot, like the one that was made by like someone online. Because I remember a friend of me showing it like way back in the day. It was like around the same time that Adventure Time was first made online. So, needless to say, they changed a lot about it. Not for the better.
Yeah. I've never seen the show, so I can't really judge it, but it is very weird.
It is definitely something for kids. There is like everything you saw, that is what it has to offer. There is really not much depth or anything of the sort to it. It's pretty much just, drop some acid and watch this weird shit going on.
I will say two good things about this episode. There are several jokes that really, really do work. And I think my favorite joke is, well, there's a bunch of meta humor. There's a couple ones that I really want to point out. First of all, when Uncle Grandpa leaves, he lists off the kids that he's helped, and the previous Cartoon Network stars like Dexter, Dee Dee, Ed, Edd n Eddy, like all the Cartoon Network shows that people forget about. I love that. I really do.
That was pretty funny, although it made me worried. I'm like, oh shit, was there already a crossover with him? Is there going to be a crossover? What is this madness?
And the other one is Garnet getting so fed up with everything. They're stuck in a plot hole, and she's just like, I'm done with it. I'm ready for this episode to be over. And she just stomps her foot, and the plot hole dissolves, and like she breaks the wall.
She literally breaks the fourth wall. I love it.
So like there is some good humor. It's not always a hit, so um yeah, like
It's unnecessary. Like,
it's unnecessary viewing, but it's not exactly bad.
yeah, I honestly, out of all the episodes that I don't like in this season, this would not be my number one because again, it's non-canon. There is some funny humor to it, like aside, that isn't fully related to Uncle Grandpa being there. I mean, it's harmless. It's just harmless fun, and again, you can take this out and lose nothing and gain nothing. And they do have that little tidbit about him learning to control his shield, which I guess is just a natural progression for the show. But again, it's harmless. It's just there. Like it doesn't really deserve the reputation it has as being like the worst Steven Universe episode ever. Like honestly, there are much worse ones I've seen that have actually like made me mad. Like as we will get to talking about. Like this did not make me mad. So I consider it not that bad in that regard.
I think there is something to be gained from watching it. I mean, yeah, it may be very weird and it may feel like an LSD trip for quite a bit of the time. But the other thing I really liked about it, besides some of the jokes, was the message at the end. Like, it's okay to be yourself. It's okay to be out there and to be weird and to be yourself. And I think that's very, very important for kids to learn. If it's aimed at young kids, and this very much is, kids get bullied for just everything. And it's just going to happen. Like, it happens in life. And I mean, I was bullied. I understand how it is. But if you have certain interests, continue with them. It doesn't matter because it's just best to be yourself. You're gonna be happier later down the line if you continue to be yourself. And I like that Uncle Grandpa says, "Well, be your weird self. I'm here. I'm weird. Like just be who you are." And as weird as this episode is, I really like that message.
Yeah, I mean, how can you get much weirder than Uncle Grandpa? Like, come on.
So after that LSD trip of an episode, we get a few other episodes that are pretty much setting things up for later down the line, where basically we have characters preparing for more gems to eventually come down, or for Peridot's return. So we have an episode where Connie wants to help out, and she essentially takes up sword fighting because she's just like, I've always wanted to learn, and I want to do my part and help. And so Pearl starts to teach her sword fighting, and that's a big part of the episode. That's a big part of the season because she's finally part of the fray. She's finally included in a lot of the things going on, and she really gets good with the sword. Like she's still learning, but honestly, she's pretty badass.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite episodes. Just seeing Pearl teach Connie and seeing how well they get into it and how capable of a fighter Connie becomes. It's like, it's so great. And granted, it does take place over the course of a montage, but it's a great montage. And, again, you get to see how, first of all, how capable Pearl is. Because, I mean, we got a taste of it back when she was trying to teach Steven in Steven the Sword Fighter. But in this, she shows off more. And then we see Connie get to show off that badassness. And it's so great. And, of course, it has a great lesson at the end about, taking that sort of thing too far. And, keeping what's important in the line of sight. So, like, I feel kind of bad for Steven because like he's like just there watching them, and Pearl is saying all these things like you gotta swear to protect him at all costs, even at the cost of your own life, and he's like,
Yeah, like to be fair, I was with Steven. I was pretty scared when she started, talking like that because, well, yeah, the purpose of a knight is to dedicate your entire being to a person, and it does make sense later down the line why she's acting like this. She's telling this to a human child that she doesn't matter, and Steven is the only important thing that she should be focusing on in battle, and I'm just like, no, that's not very good for a kid's self-esteem. That's not very good in general. So I like that at the end they show the negative aspect of that and how Steven wants to work together with Connie, and they make a very good team with Steven's shield and her sword. They're pretty badass.
Yeah, I love them like getting each other's back and one parries, one blocks. It's so great. And I mean with Pearl, I mean I can understand like why she would react that way. I mean, first of all, it's obvious she has a sort of disconnect with humans, so she doesn't quite get that she shouldn't be telling this sort of thing to a child. Not to mention the fact that she probably forgot that again humans can't reform. Like if they get hurt or die, that's it. So again, she was, and of course the fact that she was so willingly like that she was so willing to sacrifice herself multiple times to protect Rose, and project that and sort of projected that sort of thing onto Connie since it was Steven that she's guarding, and of course Steven is technically Rose. So yeah, I can understand a lot where she's coming from, but she still definitely took it way too far. But I do like at the end even she realizes that she took it too far and that she was projecting too much of her insecurities onto the kids. So, and I am glad that she is now teaching both of them at the same time as opposed to just Connie.
I really do love that exchange where she's like, "Why won't you let me do this for you, Rose?" And I'm wondering if it's alluding to something in the future. But it's a great insight to her character because up until this season we didn't get too much about Pearl, and this season really does a lot for her character, and I love that. So we have her learning to use a sword. We have Amethyst learning to be more mindful of herself and how she performs in battle in the previous episode. So she finally learns a lesson, and we learn a little bit more about herself, about how Amethyst basically doesn't want to think about herself because she has all these psychological problems simply from the way she was grown and how she doesn't feel like she measures up to everyone. So we have a great episode there. A lot of this is pretty much just build up for things that are going to come, and we get some really good character insights into various different episodes. But it really doesn't pick up with the plot until we get Peridot coming back. Basically, Peridot shows up a couple of times. They realize that she's doing something on the Earth, and they figure that they need to track her down, chase her down, capture her, because she's trying to contact Homeworld, and that's not a good thing. Because, that means other gems might come down as well. But in the midst of that, something happens that causes a fallout between Garnet and Pearl, and this is the major point of the second, the middle part of the series, I should say. So, when Peridot is trying to contact Homeworld, they return back to the place where Sugilite had to destroy the relay tower, and they're doing it via Lion because Sugilite destroyed the exit portal. And so instead of forming Sugilite, because they know that's an unstable fusion, they form Sardonyx, which is a fusion between Garnet and Pearl. Now, there's a huge thing with Amethyst because she feels inadequate after this because no one wants to fuse with her because she's unstable. And there's also a thing with Pearl. Pearl is so overjoyed at being fused with Garnet. You see her face when she was asked to fuse, and she's practically she's ecstatic at this entire exchange.
Oh yeah, I love the fusion of Sardonyx. She is so upbeat. In a way, she's kind of nothing like Pearl or Garnet, but for some reason, them together just makes the most perkiest of characters. And she's so eloquent and so outgoing, and she's so graceful in how she destroys stuff. It's hard not to like her.
I really do love the fusion.
I do love the sexy dance they have beforehand. I mean, granted, it it was an even sexier dance when Garnet and Amethyst did it, but in this case it was more like sort of seductive as opposed to just, raunchy.
Oh yeah. I think the thing that I like about Sardonyx is that it combines the intellect of Pearl with the power of Garnet, but also like just the attitude they have. They love the fusion so much that at the end of it they're so happy. Like they're jumping for joy and they're laughing and they're having fun. They enjoy being Sardonyx that much. And that goes to show exactly what the problem is later on, because the thing is, as we've established, fusion is kind of the most intimate thing that gems can do. It's pretty much like sex. Pretty much.
Yeah.
So,
which technically makes this a threesome.
it does technically make it a threesome. So the problem comes when later on they find that the relay tower has been put back together. Now they're wondering, like, wait a second, but we just took it down. How did Peridot do this? All this other stuff. It turns out it wasn't Peridot the second time. Pearl is setting up the relay tower multiple different times because she wants to be Sardonyx again, and that really is the catalyst for this second part, because when Garnet finds out that they fused for nothing, that the entire point of them fusing was just so Pearl can essentially get a quickie, like that's not a good thing. Especially because it's sex under false pretenses,
i.e. rape, which I hate to use that word, but that's essentially what it was.
So this really disrupts the dynamic in the group. Amethyst feels bad already because no one wants to fuse with her, and now you have this falling out between Garnet and Pearl, so nobody wants to talk to each other for a good portion of the rest of the season. And even when they start talking again, it's clear that Garnet is not over it. There's quite a few episodes dealing with this. I think one of my favorites was the Keystone Motel, because Garnet defuses into Ruby and Sapphire, and we see both of their points of view on it. And it gives great insight to their characters as well. And then we also get a really good episode where Pearl finally apologizes, because this whole time she's been just trying to make it up. Everything she's been doing is just trying to make it up, but she doesn't know how. And Garnet's just like, it can't just be easily solved like this, because like you did something that's pretty bad, like unforgivable almost. And Pearl says, like, she's just a Pearl, she says that the only way that she can get stronger is by fusing, and she feels inadequate a lot of the time. And it really drives home a lot of her character. Like, I really love the stuff with Pearl in this. There's some really great character bits for all of these characters, and they're so much more well-defined in this season than they were in season 1. I really feel like I understand these characters so much more.
Yeah, I really love this arc, because you pretty much never see this sort of thing in regular kids cartoons, because usually when they have an episode where two characters have a falling out, by the end of the episode it's instantly resolved, usually through like some sort of grand gesture, like either someone saves the other person's life, or they do something to humiliate themselves, or something big which, fixes everything by the end of it. That does not happen here. It takes a good 4 episodes before they finally start talking and make up. And even then, Garnet still wasn't willing to, forgive her. Like, Pearl kept saying she apologized and that she was sorry for what she did, but Garnet was still rightfully mad. Like, it had to be the two of them forced into a situation where they had to talk to each other, they had to confront each other before they finally resolved the matter. And I really enjoyed that. Like, I mean, I did and I didn't, because on the one hand, after they have that falling out, like, whenever you see them two the two of them on screen together, like, you can feel the anger and animosity from Garnet, and you can feel the sadness and guilt from Pearl, and it's like, it makes everything just so uncomfortable. And like, that is a hard thing to convey in a kids cartoon, and they did it really well in this. Like, I was really impressed. And I mean, granted they kind of, like, the two of them kind of disappear for about 2 episodes, you know, to sort of, I guess, dissolve the tension from all of that. But even so, like, you're left wondering for a while, like, are they gonna make up? Are things gonna be okay? Like, what's gonna happen? Like, I mean, granted, you kind of know eventually they will, because I don't think this is the type of show that would have the Crystal Gems breaking up. But even so, like, it does leave you kind of worried. It definitely does, and you can see and the fact that they show how everyone else feels, how Amethyst feels about the situation, how Steven feels that he's the cause of it. Like, it's all natural reactions from everyone who's ever been in a situation like that, whether they were the guilty party or they were just, you know, watching it happen. Like, it's both like, you know, distressing, but at the same time, it's, you know, you get it, you feel it, you've been there. And, you know, the way they show it, how they deal with it and everything in eventually a mature manner, like, I think is really important for people growing up and learning to, you know, not just ditch their friends, not just try to find a quick fix to an argument, you know, actually working through their problems. Like, I think that is really important, and they totally nailed it.
Oh yeah, like, the thing is, it could easily have been resolved in any other TV show if they had just, you know, made up or whatever, but that wouldn't have been a good solution to me. In this, they really show that some problems you can't talk your way out of. Sometimes an apology can't solve everything, because no matter how much you apologize or you understand why someone does it, the anger and resentment still can linger after that. And I really think they did a good job of showing how you can deal with that in a healthy manner and how you can move past it. And this part of the season is so good. Like, just so good. Such great character interaction. We get a lot of really good bits with all 3 gems. And then when they're finally forced to, you know, fuse, there's no other way out of this situation. They have to fuse. They do so, and they come to an understanding. And honestly, like, I really am glad with how it ends and how Pearl's just like, I'm going to keep trying to make it up, and be better next time. It's not just about making it up. It's about understanding why it was wrong, being better, and being a better person in the future. And I really like that. Mm-hmm. And the third portion of the story is about, you know, trying to catch Peridot, catching Peridot, and then figuring out what's going on with Homeworld. And this is the exciting portion of the season. Like,
yeah.
granted, I do love, like, the stuff that came before with the characters, but this really showcases so much of Homeworld and so much of what's going on. So Peridot, when she's finally captured, reveals that she's been using these limb enhancements, these limb attachments, because she's actually pretty small.
I know, she's so cute. Like, she's literally Steven's size. Like, it's adorable.
And they try to basically negotiate with her, and they realize that she doesn't know anything about the human world and their customs. Granted, this leads to some really amusing stuff, like her trying to flush herself down the toilet in one of the best things ever. Oh my god.
I love that gif. I see it, like, I can watch it on repeat so many times. And like when she grabs like random things in the bathroom, like a toothbrush, she's like, "Is this a weapon? Is this a weapon?"
It is to fight cavities, yes. So yeah, like, she's one of the best characters in the show, in my opinion, because she is one of those characters who's evil at first, but is so hilarious in her evil that you can't really be mad at her. And she slowly starts to learn about the human world and about how things are different here, and realizes that she's been wrong most of this time. And she doesn't change immediately, but through the course of, I want to say, like maybe 10 or so episodes. Let's see, Catch and Release is 18. So episode 18 to 26. Like, through those episodes, she showcases such huge change. But she also reveals a little bit about the social structure of Homeworld. Essentially, gems have a hierarchy, and we don't really see that because the crystal gems are very, very different. But the hierarchy of Gemworld is very, very different. Pearl, for example, is at the lowest rung of society. Pearl on Homeworld would be a slave, a servant, someone who does not fight, is not intelligent, just takes care of menial tasks, and is there to look pretty. And that explains so much of Sworn to the Sword, like why she's so loyal, and in the whole thing about her sacrificing herself for Rose, but also the idea that she's just a pearl and she can't do anything more unless she fuses. It makes so much sense.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because I mean, up to that point, we never really got that much. Like the only thing we knew is that the diamonds were at the top of the food chain. Jasper, like warriors like Jasper, quartzes were like the big muscle soldiers, and pretty much that's all we got. Like we knew like Peridot was a technician and she was probably below Jasper, but other than that, we didn't really get more of the sense of the hierarchy. It was more just, oh, these are just the roles they play. But no, now we see that there's definitely like classes to certain gems, and this is actually further explained in the episode The Answer, when we see the flashback of how Ruby and Sapphire first met, and we do see a diamond with her pearl. We see the role that Sapphires play, the role that Rubies play. So yeah, we definitely get a lot this season and how the gem world actually works. And I find it really fascinating because it adds to just how different and unique the crystal gems are, because technically speaking, Pearl should not be the way she is. She should not know how to fight and should not be that smart. Amethyst should be like twice as big and twice as strong as she is. And Garnet shouldn't even exist at all, because the thing is, they do allow fusion on Homeworld, but it's only of the same gems. Like, with the case like Ruby and Sapphire, like, there's no way they would ever allow two gems from both different types of gems and gems from two different classes to ever fuse. Like, it's considered an abomination. And it's an interesting social commentary as well, about people of, like, mixed races or from different backgrounds marrying together. So I think that's really cool, like, that they added that extra layer to that society.
There is just so much that we get from Peridot on this. Like, before we had a little bit of foreshadowing with the idea of a defective pearl, a half-cooked runt, and that thing. Like, they really foreshadowed how Gem Society viewed them without blowing their load. And I really am glad, because this whole part of the season is about them showcasing what each person's role in society is. And as Peridot tries to help them with a problem that we'll get to in a second, each individual gem has an episode with Peridot, kind of like with Zuko in Avatar: The Last Airbender, where he has an episode with each individual companion, and we learn how Gemworld reacts to those things, and then we get The Answer, which is an amazing episode, like where we finally see how Ruby and Sapphire met. And it showcases like a little bit about Homeworld. It showcases the silhouette of Blue Diamond, where the diamonds, the four of them, are at the top of the hierarchy, which is why we see diamond symbols throughout various different outposts that the gems go to. So Sapphire is a servant to Blue Diamond, and Ruby was a servant to Sapphire. Rubies are basically the brunt of the attack force, and they would fuse together to get bigger and fight. Although that's that just doesn't really help out in the grand scheme of things because it just makes them bigger. And you can really understand how their mindset is pretty much just very basic, just make them stronger, and not actually like knowing what fusion really is all about. And we see Ruby and Sapphire accidentally fuse when Ruby tries to save them. And there's so much that we get from this part of the season, so many big moments that it feels like a complete end to things. It feels like a great beginning. We get things like with Peridot, but Peridot really, once she's actually incorporated into the plot and showcases everything that's going around, really serves to flesh out the world and the lore. There's an episode where they go up to the moon, yes, the moon, to a gem outpost where we see silhouettes of the other diamonds, Yellow Diamond and White Diamond, and we haven't had anything with Pink Diamond in this season, but like we get so much about what these what this hierarchy is all about, and what everything really stands for from the first season. So before we get into the problem of the the third part of the season, I want to just touch upon just how much foreshadowing we get, how much little things here and there just dotted about gem culture and society. It's really, really great.
Yeah, not to mention we finally see what an Earth colony would have looked like. And it's kind of horrifying because we saw a taste of it with the kindergarten, in that when they make new gems, they're pretty much implanted into the ground and they absorb all the nutrients around them in order to come out fully formed and fully powerful. Had they been allowed to go further and they made even more kindergartens, the entire Earth pretty much would have been hollowed out, and it would have just been like a floating shell with different points where they would have certain gem stations and everything. It would basically be like another like a space station or something. And granted, they would be directly connected to Homeworld and everything, but pretty much they would have destroyed all life on Earth had the mission actually succeeded. So knowing that, it kind of makes the whole thing like that much more heavy, and you realize just how much like the crystal gems had to go through to stop that from happening. And what makes it even like worse is that by Peridot's reaction, because like when she sees this, she's not horrified, she's actually pissed off that it didn't happen, because she sees it as being a great expansion for their empire. And you get the feeling that, yeah, that's probably how all the other gems on Homeworld feel, and that is really horrifying. Like, for anyone who's ever seen Invader Zim, think of the Urkin Empire, the fact that they conquer planets just because they can, that they will take planets full of life and pretty much strip it all down and like turn it to something as useless as a parking lot. That's pretty much what the gem Homeworld like mentality is like. It's like they're just gonna go off and conquer these planets for their own use without any regard to the beings already living on them. Like, that is really disturbing.
Yeah, and it really leads to the problem of this part of the season. Peridot, throughout the entire season, has been visiting the kindergarten and trying to check in on the progress of certain things. We find out that one of them was the artificial forced fusion of gem shards.
AKA the cluster.
Yeah, so they started off with small gem shards, basically gems that were broken into pieces, they're already dead, but they still have a partial consciousness. But now they're forced to fuse, so they're basically zombie fusion abominations, and Garnet sees this, and she is horrified, because, like, she understands what fusion is all about. She's like, this is not fusion. This is monstrous. This is an abomination, and yeah, I kind of have to agree, because like you get to see just how big the rebellion was. They had like thousands to millions of gems with them. Probably thousands because they said millions of gem shards. So I want to say like thousands that were just split into pieces, but thousands of people just killed off because they were rebelling against the Gem Empire. And what do they do with their remains? They fuse them together as zombies to fight.
Yeah, like I mean, the first time we see these shard fusions was in season 1, where the episode where Steven, Pearl, and Amethyst are trying to like get back these bubbled shards, and you see them. They're basically like arms that are attached together, or arms and feet, or some random body parts. But in this, the shards we see get more complex. They get bigger. Like we see this one big cluster, like mini cluster of shards that form like this giant hand with like mini hands and eyeballs, and it is so freaky. And just the fact that there is a huge thing like this that is apparently growing in the center of Earth, like ready to burst out and just destroy the planet, it's like, wow. Like like up to this point, we thought this was just, a monster of the week type show, but no, this is one of those the end of the fate of the world type shows. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, like they basically say that the cluster at the center of the Earth is comprised of millions of different gem shards, and it's going to kickstart the colony. This is basically what they do to start colonies. And wow, I'm just like, there's a lot going on here, a lot of things to unpack. And one question that I asked Kat, and I did not get an answer for, but I wonder about is there any way to put a gem shard back together, or to restore a gem shard that's been artificially fused? I believe you said to me that it's basically like the gems are killed and they mutilate the corpses. But I'm really hoping that there's some way that, maybe some of these gems can be healed or reconstituted with Steven's healing powers, but that may be optimistic thinking.
I mean, I do hate to say it, but unfortunately, when you shatter a gem, that's it. Like, they're dead. Like, like, I believe there's still some form of consciousness to them, but for the most part, they are dead. It's the same thing as when you kill a human. Like, you can reconstitute it. It could, they could become a zombie, but the point is their consciousness is gone. They are just, walking shells of their former selves. That's pretty much what the gem shards are.
And that makes it all the more that makes it all the more crazy, because we see because Ruby and Sapphire fused, they were going to break Ruby. So basically put to death. Like that, there's so much more context to everything than before, and it's so much darker than I ever thought it would be from the start. And this is why I like season 2 so damn much, is that everything has consequence. And they deal with a lot of things. Before we get into what happens in Message Received and Log Date 7152, I just want to bring up some things that were resolved. Like Nightmare Hospital deals a little bit with this, where we have cluster zombies being treated at a hospital. And we finally have Connie's mom learning what she's been doing all this time with magic and with sword fighting. And while she doesn't initially allow it at first, she finally, realizes that the safety of her daughter is important, but she needs to let Connie do what she needs to do, and supports that. And I really like this because, as much as I like Connie's parents, they're a little bit overbearing, and I didn't want to have that hanging over the rest of the seasons. I like that they dealt with that.
Yeah, although I gotta say, Dr. Maheshwaran is the worst doctor ever. Yeah, not to mention the biggest idiot in this show, which is saying something, because really, like, she's a doctor, and you assume she's a good doctor, but she's treating these gem shards, and they obviously have no heartbeat or pulse or anything. They don't look remotely human, but she still treats them like they are. And it's like, can you not see this abomination in front of you? And then the same thing with Connie, and the fact that she's been doing all of this like sword training and magical stuff and shit behind her back this whole time, and she's like, "Oh, I know my daughter. I know what she's doing every minute, every day." I'm like, okay, first off, you're a doctor. You work up to 60 hours a week. There's no fucking way you can possibly keep track of her every move. And second of all, like, if you knew that, then how does she have all this time to do all of this magical stuff and get away with it? Like, it baffles me. this episode. Like, it really frustrated me, especially, like, after a point where it's obvious these are monsters. The only way to defeat them is with the sword, and she still won't hand it over to her. I'm like, give her the goddamn sword, you idiot! God.
Yeah, I was kind of like, I was face palming because, like, she's a doctor. She should know the human anatomy. She should know what a nightmarish abomination is in front of her face. Even if she wasn't a doctor, this is something straight out of a zombie horror movie. Like, this is like The Grudge on steroids, what's happening right now. And she won't let Connie have a sword because it's not safe. I'm like, there are zombie hand monsters going to destroy you. At least give her a shot.
I just love the whole thing with her glasses, where she's like, "You don't know me at all. You didn't even notice my glasses. What's wrong with your glasses? There's no glass in them." And then she's like, "I've been dealing with all this magical stuff since I've met Steven." She's like, "Oh, so you expect me to believe that your eyes magically healed?" Yes! I'm like, thank you.
Yeah, because what else explains it, you know?
I know, and it's not like she should be foreign to this stuff either. I mean, she met the crystal gems. She knows that they can fuse, and she's seen Steven use, like, his bubble to protect them. She knows that magical stuff like that exists, so I don't understand why this is outside the realm of her understanding. It makes no sense. Like, dear God, I know there's being logical, but then there's just being completely fucking blind. Like, Jesus. Ugh.
Yeah, like, that episode, I'm glad it dealt with stuff, but, like, half of it was annoying, half of it was really good horror. Like, really legitimately, these things were horrifying.
Oh yeah, definitely as a Halloween episode, it was good. Like I said, it had a really nice Silent Hill, like, vibe to it, which I liked.
Yeah, like, that was really, really good. So, I'm glad it dealt with that. There's another episode called Sadie's Song, which deals with Sadie's overprotective mother. Overbearing, I should say, because she's not like she's not like Miss Maheshwaran, where instead of, overprotection, she's very, very gung-ho, and if Sadie wants to do something, she immediately jumps in like a soccer mom, and I really feel bad because I know, I can understand how that feels. So, like, I'm just like, I like this episode because it deals with Sadie for the first time. Like, we saw individual Sadie episodes, but we never really got a good idea for her character until now. And it has a really, really nice song, which Kat will now perform for us. Take it away, Kat.
Oh, yeah. I shall. I can't help it if I make a scene, stepping out of my hot pink limousine. I'm turning heads and I'm stopping traffic. When I pose they scream and when I joke they laugh. I got a pair of eyes that they're getting lost in. They're hypnotized by my way of walking. I got them dazzled like a stage magician. When I point they look and when I talk they listen. Well, everybody needs a friend, and I've got you and you and you. So many I can't even name them. Can you blame me? I'm too famous. Haven't you noticed I'm a star? I'm coming into view as the world is turning. Haven't you noticed I made it this far? Now everyone can see me burning. Now everyone can see me burning. Now everyone can see me burning.
Ah, that is a wonderful song, and it also describes me pretty well, don't you think?
Full of yourself much, Zen?
No, I remember when we were watching the episode, and we were talking about the songs that we wanted to sing, and she's like, "You should sing this song. It pretty much describes you." I'm like, I mean, I am a little bit famous, but and I like Hot Pink and stuff, but you know what? I'm gonna take a different song this episode.
No, that's fine. I did suggest it, and I do mean it. I just like to poke at your ego is all.
I do agree. I do enjoy having fans. You guys are the best. Thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate all of you. But I am waiting for the day where I can, get out of a hot pink limousine.
Oh, there's one other episode I think we should discuss too, because it is kind of a follow-up to the end of season 1, Chill Tide, where we see Lapis and what sort of became of her.
Oh yes. I was trying to remember where that was in everything. So Chill Tide is a foreshadowing of what's probably going to happen next season, where we get follow-up on Jasper and Lapis. Basically, throughout the entire season, for the most part, they're trying to locate Peridot and Lapis. They have Garnet searching through the bottom of the ocean, because she can do that. She's a very good swimmer. But yeah, so they don't find her. But one night after Steven falls asleep, he starts dreaming that he sees Lapis, and he actually visits her in his dreams and finds out what's happening. She's still in control, but if she loses it for a second, Jasper takes control as well, and we see how Jasper's fighting the entire way. We don't really reveal where they are or exactly what's going to happen to them, but it's a nice follow-up. It's very much like, this is still happening, even though the focus of the season is on Peridot, and I really do like that.
I was also going to say that we also get introduced to a new power of Steven's as well. He has the power of astral projection. He's able to actually, teleport himself into people's minds, through his dreams, which I think is really cool. It's a cool power. That's how he ends up finding Lapis. He somehow manages, while he's sleeping, to find her wherever she is in the ocean and, actually directly communicate with her. And I really like all the visual effects they have for how he, enters his dream state and then enters into, the state of her mind and everything, and the mind of, their fusion and all that. I thought it was really cool. And it's not the first, and it's not the only time we'll see something like that.
I really love how Dogcopter makes another appearance in Meows. I love how they just keep referencing past episodes in this.
I like Pearl's dream. She's surfing on a pizza with Rose and saying they should run away together, and then all of a sudden you hear Greg's voice and he's like, "Pearl, thank you for fixing my van." And a piece of pizza that slowly comes out of his mouth.
Speaking of Greg Universe, there is a follow-up episode from the first season, basically the episode where he explains a little bit about how they met. There's another episode where Greg sits them down and explains a little bit more about their relationship and how that worked, and how salty Pearl is about the entire relationship that they're having. In fact, she fuses right in front of Greg. Basically, the whole point of the episode is Pearl is salty, and so they're having they're basically jamming together as a band, and Pearl is salty, so she realizes, oh, I'm gonna fuse in front of them because Greg can't fuse. And I do like the fusion of Rainbow Quartz. It is really, really cool looking. Mm-hmm. But that's the catalyst for the episode. Greg wants to figure out how to fuse. And he isn't at the end, but it shows that they're trying to get to know each other. And also Greg finds out that Stevonnie is a thing.
I love his face when they fuse. It's like, what the hell? Like, I knew you were gonna go through puberty, but I didn't expect this. But yeah, I did like this episode in that, it's not just Greg learning about fusion and trying to do it so he'd be on the same level as Pearl in terms of his relationship with Rose, but it's him coming to terms with the fact that he doesn't really know Rose at all. That the relationship, let's face it, is kind of shallow. It's, based on looks, it's, a whirlwind romance that, they kind of just met, instantly fell in love, and now are just in this relationship. But it's gotten to the point where now he kind of wants more out of it. He wants to, make things more serious. But because of, how Rose is, because of what she is, it's hard to connect with her on a personal level. And I do like how the episode shows them attempting to do that. And that they realize that, oh, there's more to the relationship than just, mutual attraction. There's, it's about actually forming a bond, actually fusing in that regards. And I really like that.
In that same vein, in an earlier episode, Garnet says something that I really think is something to take to heart. Love at first sight doesn't exist. Love takes work, and love takes time. If you don't know anything about the other person, things aren't going to work out. And this is something that I found out in my own relationship just recently. Like, I've known my girlfriend for about 2 years now, and we had our first fight, and we realized that we're very, very different people, and we made up. But it takes work. It really does. It's not something that's easy.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, I've been in 2 serious relationships myself, and there are definitely ups and downs. You're always going to have disagreements. You're never going to see eye to eye on everything. But the point is that you make the effort to communicate and understand each other and learn from it. And I think they showcased that really well in this episode. And again, you see why Greg and Rose are such a great couple. It's not just them having a mutual interest in, rock and roll or singing or anything like that. It's them, being 2 people who enjoy life, enjoy the earth, and want to live their lives to the fullest. And it showcases it perfectly in this.
So there's a lot of really good follow-ups to season 1 episodes. There's a lot of really good continuation of things that were explored before. But the season ends with something that I thought was very interesting because I couldn't see where it was going. Peridot joins with them because she wants to help them take care of the cluster. Because she's trapped on Earth, none of her messages are being received, there is no way she can get off the planet, and she doesn't want to die. So they're working together to make a drill that can get to the cluster and stop it. And throughout the course of the season, they start to get along. All the gems start to respect each other, and we see how she interacts with all of them, especially Steven, because Steven's the one who initially believed in her and the one that she started talking to first. And after a while, they all start forming a bond. And I started thinking, is she going to join the Crystal Gems? Well, when they go to the moon, she ends up taking this device that we don't know what it does at the time, but it's in the shape of a diamond, and that's nothing good. So Steven, in a very good bit of brilliance, immediately confronts her on this. Normally, if this was season 1 Steven, he would have paid this no mind and bad things would have happened. But he corners her in the car, takes the child locks, turns on the child locks, and traps her inside the car, quote unquote, and finds out that it's a communication device, a direct line to Yellow Diamond, who we heard of before. And she realizes now that, she can still get off the Earth and stop the cluster. And Steven's just like, but all this time we've been working together, we've been getting to know each other, I trusted you. And for the very first time, Steven realizes, not everyone is going to be adhere to trust. It's a very big moment for Steven. It's a very big moment for Peridot. He takes away the communication device, and they try to find a way to finish the drill and get rid of the cluster in time. Peridot, however, finds a way out. She gets the communication device, contacts Yellow Diamond to end off the season. So this is a big thing, because diamonds are the top of the food chain. There are 4 diamonds. They're all pretty terrible and powerful and huge. So she contacts Yellow Diamond, makes her report, and for the first time we actually see Yellow Diamond. And to be fair, she looks pretty menacing, because she is around the size of like 2 fused gems. She's pretty big.
Yeah, I think she theoretically is the same size as Alexandrite, maybe even taller.
Mm-hmm. So you can see why everyone is afraid of the diamonds if they're that big. We don't even know their combat capability, but just speaking from a gem hardness scale, diamonds are the hardest substance in terms of gems. Like, in the real world, there's nothing stronger than a diamond.
Oh, yeah.
So, there's something to be said about why they're all afraid of diamonds. So she contacts Diamond. She says the cluster's activating, but she wants to make a case because there's resources on the Earth that are important enough that she wants to protect. Because, like, she states it in efficiency levels, but you can clearly see that Steven has had an effect on her. And throughout the entire thing, we're not sure what's going to happen. We're not sure what she's going to do, because she is very, very loyal to Yellow Diamond, but she sees the potential in Earth, and she's seen what Earth is all about. Plus, she's become a fan of a TV show, and she started shipping characters. She has found the value of relationships.
Or just shipping.
We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, she's found value in this planet. And when Yellow Diamond looks at her, she says, "I don't care. I want the Earth destroyed. Am I clear?" And at first, you think that she's going to succumb to Yellow Diamond because, you know, she's still very loyal. She's still making the poses of the diamond. But she says, with great conviction, she says, "No, you clod." And Yellow Diamond makes a face. Now, after we saw this episode, one of my fans sent this thing to me that basically enhances this. It basically says the episode up until normal, and then when it gets to that part, it just repeated of
You done fucked up. You done
you
fucked
done
up.
fucked up. You
done
fucked up.
You have fucked up.
And it is so glorious. But yeah, so the communication device explodes after the channel closes, and Peridot becomes one of the crystal gems. And she realizes that she is a traitor to her world. But I just love that. I was so dying when I saw that "you done fucked up" thing. It was at night. We had just had a long day. We finished watching the season. We watched that thing, and I could not breathe. I could not breathe because of that sequence. I'm like, oh god.
Like,
But
like, you realize what this means? I'm a traitor to my homeworld. You done fucked up.
It's a great character piece because you didn't know where it was going. You can clearly see that Earth has had an effect on Peridot, but she very much is loyal to Yellow Diamond, and like through the entire thing, I didn't know where it was going. It was really, really great. And then we have the fallout with log date 7152, which details how Garnet has actually been helping the entire time with her future sight. She's been slowly talking to Peridot and showing her what fusion is all about and why is important to her and just basically helping her out. It's a really great episode, especially because for the entire time, like, Peridot's kind of losing it. It's like, are you okay, Peridot? No. Yes.
I'm a traitorous Claude. I don't ever want to think about what I did again. I'm a traitorous Claude. Claude. He's like, Peridot, are you okay? Claude, no.
And then that's where we learned that she was also she watched one episode of a TV show. It's like, I don't want to watch this filth.
Like Camp
76 hours.
Pining Hearts.
I don't want to watch this filth 76 hours later. You've been watching that same episode this whole time? There are more episodes? And she makes it a relationship chart and everything. And the way that Garnet explains fusion to her is by ships.
Yeah. I like how she ships two boys together. And it's like through all like these really subtle like all these subtle interactions throughout the episode, and like even Steven's confused. He's like you got all that from one episode? It's subtext, Steven. Like, oh my god, she's a fucking fangirl.
So yeah, that's the end of the season. She becomes a crystal gem, and that's the story from there. This season has so much in it, so much development. There's not really any major new characters aside from Yellow Diamond, who we don't really know anything about, which is why we spent more time talking about the story than the characters. And a lot of the character development is in the story. But the major thing, I think the biggest development is Peridot's shift. Because when we saw her in season 1, I was not expecting to love her this goddamn much. She is right now my current favorite character. Peridot is hilarious. She's funny. She's intelligent. But also, she shows that she can grow and change and learn, and is one of the more dynamic characters of the show.
Oh yeah, like I like when we were discussing favorites in season 1. It's like, don't get me wrong, Garnet's still my favorite original crystal gem, but Peridot, like, I just identify with her so much on so many levels. Like, like everything from her like little angry temper tantrums to her like attempting to learn and get on everyone's good side when she knows she's made a mistake. Like, it's so endearing, and she's just hilarious in how she goes about everything. And weird thing is, like, she's actually a good representation for two types of people. One is, I think she's a good representation of people who are, like, sort of on the autistic spectrum, because she takes a lot of things literally, she takes a lot of things personally, and it's hard for her to learn new things. But when she does, she obsesses over it, and, you know, she gets all into it. Like, I know they never outright say it, and they probably never even attended it, but that's how I kind of see her, because, you know, having two autistic siblings myself, like, I can sort of see similar traits. But I do like how they show that she's a bit more flexible, and that, you know, she does have some definite prejudices, you know, from where she came from, she learns to overcome them. And that kind of leads to the other archetype I identify her with, like somebody who used to identify with a group that, you know, had a certain mindset, but eventually realized the error of their ways and is trying to come around to it. You know, somebody who, for instance, say, might have been brought up to think the KKK was good, or someone who was raised in the Westboro Baptist Church. You know, like, obviously I don't consider Homeworld that extreme, but the point is, you know, there are people that were brought up in that kind of environment where they were taught that a certain way of life was wrong, that certain people were wrong, but once they actually got into a different environment, they actually met different people, they learned their stories and, you know, how they go about life, and that they just want to be happy and everything, that they changed their tune. And that's Peridot's whole thing. Like, my favorite line is, like, my favorite, I should say, like, monologue of hers is when she's apologizing to Amethyst in the episode Too Far, where, you know, she's still, like, stuck in her mindset, but then when she sees that her habits are entertaining her, she starts joking along with it, but then she carries the humor too far and ends up insulting her. And so she apologizes to her via recording that she has, And, she says that, it was not my intention to cause her distress. I'm still learning. And that's what I really like. I even have that on a pin, because that's basically Peridot's whole plot. She is learning. She is learning to overcome these prejudices. She's learning to adapt to her environment, and she's learning to, be a better gem and to be a better friend to her new friends. And honestly, what's not to like about that? That's honestly what makes her a brilliant character and why her arc is like so brilliant.
Yeah, she very much shows in every single episode a slight learning, and from the start to the end of the season, she has so much development. But also, I love her humor, how she calls like certain objects the wrong thing, and her terminology is amazing.
Hey Peridot, what do you call this? A scent sponge. What about these? Touch stumps. What about these? Gravity connectors. How about this? That's your butt!
What's this? Your butt! And then she like tries to flush herself down the toilet. Again, the best gif I have ever seen. Yeah, Peridot's probably the most growth. We already talked about Garnet and how she needs to get over the stuff with Pearl. We talked about Pearl and how she needs to get over that stuff. Amethyst is very much, she needs to understand that she's very much a worthwhile asset to the team. And there's a really nice episode where she meets her friend Vidalia, who is the mother of Onion and Sour Cream. Mm-hmm. And who we did previously meet in another episode. Basically, she was the person who was dating Greg's old manager at the time. Well, now she's settled down, she has a family, and Amethyst and her talk it out. And I really, really love that, because it shows that Amethyst has someone to vent to, and she starts getting happier after that point, because I think she starts going to her more often. And Amethyst just needs to realize that she's still cool. And I think that's the thing where cool people can sometimes not realize just how awesome they really are. It's very much a state of you are stuck in this depressive mindset. Even though you're really awesome, other people look up to you. And I really like how it deals with that. It doesn't fully solve it, but it does in such a way where she has an outlet for it, especially when the gems aren't talking to each other. And I think that's really, really good for her.
Oh, yeah. Like, I am glad. And I do like Vidalia and that they brought her back and, made her into, like, this chill mother character. Like, it still kind of baffles me, though, that Onion would have something as normal as a family, though. It seems more like he popped out of the ground or something.
Let's talk about Onion. Onion is still my least favorite character, and this episode slightly helps, but the first half of the episode, I was ready to call it quits, because basically while they're talking, Steven has to play with Onion, and he asks Steven to feed a mouse to a snake, and then he shows him his birth video. Who does this? Who does this? And I was ready to write Onion off. I really don't like Onion. And then they have this part of the episode where they go into a secret room where I thought it was going to be his serial killer lair, because no. But it's basically where he keeps all his guys. Like, he has, Ranger Guy and all these other guys and gals, and Karen. But yeah, like, Onion actually starts to behave like a person, and they showcase that Onion always talks about Steven and looks up to him, and I'm not sure I can entirely see that, kind of, but I still don't like Onion for two reasons. One, he still steals all this shit, he still wastes food, and at the end of the episode, he has a mouse in his mouth. What? Like, it's good development for Onion, and it did make him like him a little, but I'm still weirded out. He makes me uncomfortable.
No, I will understand that. I know a lot of people that are really creeped out by Onion. Like, I don't know what it is. I'm creeped out by him too, but I just find him entertaining, and just how subtly evil he is in all these ways, and just how weird he is. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, I like seeing him like rob people. I like seeing him like doing these like unexpected things, and he does it without saying a word. It's the weirdest thing, but it's just so damn entertaining. I can't help it. Now, I want to tell you who I don't like still is Ronaldo.
Ronaldo.
And that is, yeah, that leads to my least favorite episode of this season, Rising Tides, Crashing Skies, where we see Ronaldo basically do his own web documentary, and that's pretty much how the whole thing is told, as like a really crappily done like YouTube documentary. And yeah, it just continues to solidify just how fucking delusional Ronaldo is, and what a fucking despicable character he is. Ugh.
It's weird though, because he unwittingly foreshadows stuff that's going to happen, like the hollowing out of the Earth is something that he foreshadowed, and you don't take him seriously because he's Ronaldo. But then he has these moments, like in full disclosure, where he's just like, Steven, you and I, we know things that the world cannot handle. You must go it alone. And I'm like, no, you're a bad influence. Just, I don't like Ronaldo.
No, I continue to not like him. Just, like, yeah, that whole thing with him telling Steven he has to go it alone, it's like, dude, you have no fucking clue what he's dealing with, and you could not deal with the type of shit that he deals with. And then on top of that, like, he tries to make himself to be the hero, the savior of Beach City. He's like, I deal with all this stuff, and, I'm gonna get rid of the crystal gems, but then once he, like, does, or he thinks he does, he realizes, oh shit, I won't have a web show after this, and he goes right back to, like, beg them to stay, just to, like, keep his own, like, sense of purpose. It's like, dude, you are awful. You are absolutely fucking awful. Like, thank God the crystal gems are not, like, a real threat, otherwise the world would be doomed.
I mean, yeah, I definitely see it a lot more in this season. In very, very small doses, he's kind of funny, but, like, he just does the wrong thing. He rubs me the wrong way. I love Steven's development this season. Steven gets a lot of really good development. And I think the biggest thing was his birthday. Now, this was something I actually got right. Because last season, when we did our little retrospective, I asked a question. How old is Steven? Because he does not act his age. He is 14 as of this season. I was right, because he acts a lot younger than his age actually is, and it's just because of the way he ages as a half-human, half-gem hybrid. And, right now he acts the way he feels. And during the birthday episode, they show that he can stretch himself out to make himself look older, but that puts a lot of strain on him, and when he does that, he reverts to a baby. He's fine after a little bit, but it's kind of like how gems need to restore themselves, because like he is still very, very young. He's still kind of a newly formed gem human hybrid, and he very much looks how he acts rather than how old he is. And they dealt with how Connie has to deal with this. And let me just say, Connie is fantastic this season. In addition to everything else, she's just like, even when she sees Steven as a baby, she's like, I'll protect him. She still is, even though it's like a very weird thing for her to deal with, she deals with it with maturity and as a best friend would, and I love that.
Oh yeah, like, Connie definitely has some great highlights this season, in addition to becoming a capable fighter, but, learning to roll with all the magical punches and dealing with all the stuff that, befalls Steven. Like, I do like how she was concerned at first, learning his age, because, think about it, like, she obviously has feelings for him, they obviously have feelings for each other, but the problem is, when she realizes that he won't age the way she does, or, might not possibly age, it's upsetting, because if you want to grow up and eventually be with someone, I mean, how are you supposed to, like, marry someone who looks 8 years old in a normal world? Like, that's not possible. And it's just, I could see how there's a lot of things she would want to do, maybe even want to start a family with him and everything, or, bring him along with whatever career path she chooses, and it's hard if he, consistently looks like a kid. So you can see where she's coming from there, but I do like how, towards the end, she realizes that no matter what he looks like, no matter how his age progresses, she's gonna be there for him no matter what. And you get that is like so heartwarming right there. Like, I just love it. And it's funny though too, because I remember there was like, before this episode aired, there was a bunch of theories going around that predicted the opposite thing. They were saying that Steven was only like a few years old, that he like aged himself like rapidly or whatever, to like so he could go on missions with the crystal gems. Like, I would have bought either one, but I'm kind of glad they went the older route, because it makes it a little less creepy, him being with Connie.
Yeah, that would make it a little bit more creepy. I also like that Connie and Greg have like a bond now, because they're the two normal human beings out of this whole thing. And Greg says, if you ever need to talk to me about gem stuff, I'm here. And they do. It's really, really great. I love that.
Yeah, Greg is best dad.
Greg is best dad. So yeah, I mean, there really isn't any new characters added, but they gave so much more development to all of these characters. I
like the development they gave to Ruby and Sapphire.
Yeah, Ruby and Sapphire got some really good stuff.
Yeah, like we see them fight in the episode Keystone Motel, and it's funny how they each deal with the anger, with Ruby being like outwardly aggressive while Sapphire kind of holds it in and like gives the cold shoulder, literally. And then of course we see in the answer, how they met, like the different classes they came from and what it is they sacrificed in order to be with each other. Like, they're just such an adorable couple, and I love them. Like, and there are episodes later down the line that show that more highlights their relationship, but for these two episodes, they're like a good starting point, and I totally love both of them.
I think my favorite part is at the end of the Keystone Motel when they finally make up, because Steven gets mad, and Steven doesn't normally get mad in the show, but he gets pissed, and he walks out, and he calls them out on it, and they're just like, we didn't mean to upset you, Steven. And they're like, you know what? We need to get over ourselves for Steven's sake, and they start kissing each other, and you see how their relationship really is, and how adorable they are together, because Ruby and Sapphire are such a cute couple. And we also see that Sapphire has one eye, which explains why they have three eyes when they fuse, when every other gem has multiple different eyes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it is a bit freaky, because, she has that one big giant eyeball, but even so, like, it makes sense. And, Sapphire's still real pretty, even, with her eye like that.
Oh, they're both pretty. Like, they're both, like, an ideal lesbian couple, honestly.
Yeah. And like the answer is like honestly my favorite episode of this entire season, not just because of how much lore we get and the background and how they met and everything, but just the artwork and everything, the music, just the progression of everything. It was just so perfect. Like, I just love it. And I love the message at the end too, that unlike other gems who fuse just to get stronger, they fused out of pure love. And that's like and they basically are like, the answer to why you should fuse in the first place is because you love someone. Why do you like hook up with somebody? Why do you, gain, like start a friendship or a relationship or anything? Because of love. And it might not necessarily be romantic or platonic or whatever, but the point is, what's the best reason to be with someone? Love. And that's the answer.
And we get a little bit more with Rose and Pearl, because we see that Pearl was with Rose at the time that Garnet met up with Rose. It's like shortly after they fuse, they're wandering around, they meet up with Pearl and Rose, and they join the rebellion. Because Rose doesn't even care that they're fused, she's more interested in how they feel. And that's really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, like, there's just some really great character development. There's really good backstory. The answer, there was like this fan animation project for the answer that Kat showed me that was really, really good. Just like these series of episodes for season 2 just pack so much in. There's a lot to take in, and while not much is added from the that we hadn't already seen from the previous seasons, it just expands upon the lore and the characters to the point where I'm just in love with the show now. I think this show is fantastic, and I think the LGBT messages that is shown in this show, for like, as someone who is trans and gay myself, lesbian, whatever you want to say, I really appreciate a lot of the stuff that they deal with in the show, and I think it's done in a mature way, and I think it's stuff that people need to hear. And I love there's this joke that Kat told me about how like the producers went to the creator and says, you can't put this on TV, there's all this gay stuff, and she's just like, well, they have no gender, they're space rocks. And she's like, we're watching you. And after the producer goes away, it's like, make it gayer.
Oh, you have no fucking idea. We will get to that in later episodes.
All right, before we get into our final thoughts, we will conclude with our final song of the episode. We are going to do a duet of Do It For Her. Take it away, Zen and Kat.
All right. Everything begins with your stance. Remember, you do it for him, and you would do it again. You do it for her, that is to say, you'll do it for him. Keep your stance wide, keep your body lowered. As you're moving forward, balance is the key. Right foot, left foot, now go even faster. And as you're moving backwards, keep your eyes on me.
Keep my stance wide.
Good.
Keep my body lower.
Right.
As I'm moving forward.
Concentrate. Don't you want him to live?
Right foot, left foot.
Yes, but put your whole body into it. Everything you have, everything you are, you got to give. On the battlefield, when everything is chaos, and you have nothing but the way you feel, your strategy and a sword. You just think about the life you'll have together after the war, and then you do it for her. That's how you know you can win. You do it for her, that is to say, you'll do it for him. Deep down, you know you weren't built for fighting, but that doesn't mean you're not prepared to try. What they don't know is your real advantage. When you live for someone, you're prepared to die.
Deep down, I know that I'm just a human.
True,
but I know that I can draw my sword and fight. With my short existence,
Good.
I can make a difference.
Yes, excellent.
I can be there for him. I can be his knight. I can do it for him. You do it for her.
Okay, now do that again. You do it for her, and now you say,
I'll do it for him. Very nice, very nice. All right, I think it's time for final thoughts. I mean, there's more that we could talk about, I guess. But like, the music's still good. It's still catchy. The most that we really wanted to focus on this episode, I think we did, because there was just a lot of really great story and character developments. I don't have any speculations for the future. I can't predict where this show is going to go because I don't know too much about the Diamonds. I want to know, but I'm not going to waste my time speculating because I'm probably going to be wrong. So, Kat, why don't you give your final thoughts on the season, and then I'll take it away.
Oh, this season 2 is my absolute favorite. It's the season that I came in on as a fan. It's, the episode that I followed along with everyone to its conclusion. And again, just
the 3-part arcs, seeing the fallout from the first episode, seeing the whole fight between Garnet and Pearl, and then the overall arc of Peridot, like, just made this season so damn perfect. Like, it does shift gears every now and again, but for the most part, it stays consistent with the tone of the show. It gives you more to, like, speculate on and more development for the characters, and it's just great. Like, I definitely love this. Like, out of all, like, the seasons that I rewatched the most, this is definitely not, like, highest on the list. As I said, Peridot is my absolute favorite. She's my angry little Dorito, and I love, and we're gonna get some even more good development and episodes from her in the future. I love the new fusions that we got in this. I love all the new songs, and yeah, I just love this in general. Like, and we get so much more to look forward to in the future, because as we know, we still have to deal with the whole Lapis Jasper thing. Have to deal with the cluster. We have to deal with the diamonds, learning their stories. We get to learn more about Rose, and we just get to have so much to look forward to, and I can't wait to show you it. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, like, the thing that I like about this, for one, it's more streamlined. It's half as long as the first season, by our definition. Like, there's season 1A and season 1B, but there's a lot less to talk about in terms of the amount of episodes, but it's streamlined. It's very focused. There's a clear 3-part story arc, 3 different things that all build into one point near the end. But there's so much more going on. Like you said, the cluster, the diamonds, Rose, so much that we need to learn. This is just a taste to me of what's to come, and it's very exciting. This season excited me to continue watching, because there's so many mysteries. I want to know more about the diamonds. I want to know more about the gems. I want to know more about everyone else. But it focused its development. The character development is leagues above the first season, to the point where, like, it's hard to compare, because we get so much from each character, a little bit from the side cast, but it's very much focused on the main cast that we already know, and fleshing them out a lot more and developing them. I love Connie. I love Steven in this arc, because he gets so much more mature and grows up a little bit, and realizes that he's been naive, but also he believes in the good in people more than the gems, and that saves them, especially with Peridot. I love the Cool Kids. I think the Cool Kids did a great job in their episodes. I love Sadie in this.
We forgot about Jamie. Aw. The mailman.
Jamie the mailman is a new character. He doesn't do too much this season, but he's basically an actor. He wants to basically act in Hollywood, but he got rejected a lot after some plot points, which aren't really very essential. He becomes the local theater guy, and they start performing plays with him. And honestly, he's a good character. He's just not that important to this season.
I know, but I just like him, as a character, just because of how melodramatic he is and everything, and plus his whole declaration of love to Garnet, and his whole one-man show of, like, the founding of the town. It was just really entertaining to me. I just wanted to point that out real quick.
He has some really good filler episodes, and I will say that. My favorite is Peridot. Peridot, like, just quickly became one of the most developed characters, most funny characters in the show, and just I love her to death. Like, I love how when she runs out of ways to say Claude, she's just like, I'm gonna have to figure out something else to say. I'm running out of ways to call them Claudes.
I like her name for Garnet. It's like she calls her the Permafusion. Like, I could call her something. I can call her 2 things. 2 Claudes. And it's funny.
She's a riot.
It's just funny how her development was, she initially despised Garnet for being a fusion, to going to wanting to fuse with her. And we almost got a fusion from that. I just find that really hysterical.
I love when Garnet says, "You want to try?" And she looks at her and she starts blushing. She's like, "No, I'm not prepared. I'm not ready," because she's essentially asking her if she wants to have sex or a threesome, I should say.
It's like, oh, my sweet little virgin gem.
But yeah, like this season didn't add too much new, but it just built on what was established, and it gave us lore, it gave us character development, it gave us some really good stuff about Homeworld, and it really made these characters much more likable, in my opinion. I love this season. I think, we needed season 1 to get to this point, but this so far is my favorite point of the series. And what they're able to do with these characters is simply fantastic. With all that being said, I am Zenith Rule.
And I'm Kat McBerry.
And we will see you as we dive into Season 3. We are getting to the halfway point of this show so far. And granted, the show is going to continue, but when we actually catch up to Season 5, we're still going to do it by season. Not by arc, by season, just to make it easier. Just so, I mean, obviously, I'm probably going to watch it as I go along because, again, it's hard to avoid spoilers. But I just, I want to take this as a season. I think it's easier to do so that way. Mm-hmm. But I'm excited. We're finally going into Season 3. I know Kat is excited to move forward. I'm super excited. And then we only got 3 more episodes of these to make, and then we can maybe move on to Star Versus or Gravity Falls or another show. I don't know. I'm just looking forward to doing more things because this is fun. Gem is fun. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you over in Season 3. Have a good one, guys.
And wow, thanks!
And just remember, being nice to someone can change someone's mind if they are an angry little Dorito.
Claude.
Hey, this is Megami33. Thank you for watching Zenith Will Review. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more awesome videos. If you like what you see, check out the Patreon page at patreon.com/ZenithWillReview.